That very first time lapse that I ever shot was on the corner of Merrick and Linden. I was on a school, it was a private school at the time, and I was allowed access to the roof, and they had one rule. They said, "Don't fall off." But I'm part of a very supportive community. My old neighborhood has big love for me and big respect, and I have big and love respect for them. So when I said I wanted to try this time lapse thing, I wanted to shoot a time lapse of Merrick and Linden. This is like 2010, 2009. Now your iPhones and your smartphones, they can all do this with no problem. But back then you needed a very expensive camera, and not an expensive, but you needed a camera and an intervalometer, but usually a very expensive camera that would accept the little outlet that the intervalometer would connect to. So, anyways, I get up there and it's not the coolest thing. It's pretty whack, to be honest with you, because it's a gray day and an intersection really isn't all that interesting, especially when it's daylight outside and it's a gray day and it's just really nothing happening. But I do it. I look up the block and I shoot a time lapse and I shoot one of like the main intersection of Merrick and Linden. And that was the goal, just to shoot a time lapse. And eventually, over time, I got better and better and better because I chose better locations. I chose better subject matter. I had to charm my way into certain buildings in Times Square to get to shoot down, looking at the red steps and the whole main area of Times Square. And even when I went to Columbus Circle, I was trying my best to like, how do I get the circle in daytime and nighttime? So I had to charm some hostesses at the Mad restaurant, the restaurant that's up there. And they let me come back. They let me in two times to get a daytime shot and a nighttime shot while they were actually serving food. So that was great. And then I charmed some building that was being built to let me get on their roof and shoot the Brooklyn Bridge, because it was the Brooklyn and the Manhattan Bridge at the same time. And I said, I'll give you a copy. And I gave them a copy of it. And it's just crazy what can actually happen if you just ask. These people were allowing me to get on whatever rooftop access to offices. It was a great time. But when I was done, like when I had hit the peak of everything that I was doing, I made this like little 1 minute reel, or just, yeah, a 1 minute reel, but I added music. And so it looked like kind of a short, but there was no words or anything. But in 1 minute, you got to see the city. And so I was up one night and I said, you know what? I'm going to submit this. No matter of fact, I was up one night and I found a contest for short films and I submitted my little short and I didn't win, but the people who were judging the film festival for this particular little tiny film festival also owned the magazine Digital Photo. So one of their editors or producers pitched me the idea of writing a story. And I said, sure. So they gave me some questions. I wrote it all out as an article and then I submitted it. And they were like, look, we can't give you we can't take credit for this. You wrote it in your voice. And I was like, so what does that mean? You're not going to publish it? It's like, no, we're going to publish it, but we're going to change a few things and then we're going to give you full credit. And so I was like, fantastic. I sent them like imagery that they asked for. One of my favorite shots was this shot I did in Coney Island of the wheel, this other ride, and people going by. It was a beautiful night. And so that was like one of the main shots for the layout, and then like a gear list. And then, once I submitted it and it got published, I went into the Port Authority on 42nd Street and I'm looking and I see the magazine. I open it up. I see my article and I am open. I'm like celebrating in this little magazine stand. And I'm like, oh my God, this is me. This is me. And I walk up to the guy and I was like, hey, I did this. I wrote this article. This is my very first article. And he was like, yeah, okay, $5. Give me $5. And of course I bought like 5 or 6 copies and I was giving them out. It was a great day. And then on top of that, which I did not know, I had fallen on, like, let's just say like weeks later, I had fallen on, like working as a creative is feast and famine. And at that time it was famine. And I was like, yo, I have no idea how I'm going to pay my bills. I was like, things got lean. And then I got an email from the same guy who pitched me the story. He's like, yo, where do we send the check? And I was like, what check? And he was like, the check for what you wrote. And I was like, oh, that was a paid gig? I thought it was just like something. I thought it was like an honor. I don't know. I wasn't thinking about the bread. I was just so excited to be doing helping, like being chosen to write an article for something that I was still learning. So I wasn't like pro at it, even though I was doing professional things. I wasn't in a sell it mind state just yet. And after that, I submitted the clips to Getty, and now I get little residuals throughout the year. Um, but that being said, they cut the check and it paid the rent. And that year, I mean, that month, I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna pay the rent. And somehow I paid the rent and I had a little bit of change after that. So I say a lot to say that sometimes you can start out something and it can walk you through all kinds of spaces and places. And even though it starts out trash, it gets better and better and better depending on how much you care and how much you want to push the craft forward. And me, I was trying to get to cooler and cooler places and spaces just to make this 1 minute video, and then I ended up submitting it, and then I ended up getting published, and I ended up getting a check. And that was just a one-time deal. After I got in the magazine, I kind of like lost my taste for doing time lapse. So, but it's a chapter in my creative career. Can I still get busy? I'm sure, but it's gone, it's gotten to the point that anybody can do it, and you can do it on your phone. It's not as cool, and the allure for the challenge is not there like it once was. So it was a fun time. I had a good time.